your objection needs to have realistic grounds. So you can't just object because you don't like your neighbor. We're doing some more Q&A, and this is an interesting question. So the neighbor has built illegally, without any plans, has built over the building line, and is now threatening to take you to court because you don't want to sign and approve the plans. So the question is, can the neighbor take you to court? I'm not a lawyer, so this is my 2 cents as an architect, and I'm going to answer in relation to the building regulations only. So this is not legal advice, this is architect advice. I think you can take anyone to court for just about anything, but the question, your real question is, will the neighbor win? So your neighbor has built over the building line without approval, because if they're asking for your consent now, it means that they've built without approval. That makes this an illegal building. Now, when we want to go over the building line, we need to do what's known as a deviation application. Okay, and for this specific deviation of a building line, the neighbor's consent is required as part of that application. And that application needs to be filed first before you can obtain a building permit. Now, a building permit is what we generally submit plans to the council for, to get approval so that we can get a building permit to allow us to build. So in short, your neighbor has built the building and hasn't followed due process. Now, you are allowed to object. So if your neighbor comes to you and says, this is what we want to do and we want to build across the building line, you are allowed to object. Your objection needs to have realistic grounds. So you can't just object because you don't like your neighbor. Okay? You can say that it's impacting your privacy, there's going to be a noise issue, it's going to impact on the property value, or maybe it's going to cause a stormwater drainage issue. There are real ways and reasons why you can object. You could also negotiate with your neighbor about what you're willing to accept. Great, could you maybe move it 1.5 meters off the building line, and could you raise the wall between us to 3 meters? I'm not sure. Whatever it is that you might see as a compromise that you're willing to accept. The drawings then need to be updated to show that compromise. Okay, I would also have it in writing. Once that is then done and the drawings are updated, you can then sign. But in this instance, the neighbor didn't do that. And so in my opinion, you have zero obligation to approve that alteration. Maybe you want to go back to them and you want to say, I think you mentioned in your question that it's right at your main bedroom and it's very noisy. So maybe now you could negotiate with them that they put some noise reducing material on the outside of their building at their additional cost, that maybe you raise the boundary wall at their cost, and then you would then sign it off. But in this instance, I would give them a letter that says if they do that, you'll sign off, and once it's done, because it's already illegal, that's the only time I'd sign it off. The one other question I have in this instance is why you didn't do anything while they were building. Now, I don't know the circumstances. I don't know how big this alteration or renovation or addition is, but there would have been a time period when they were building. And if your neighbor is building, you have every right to go across and ask them, to see their approved plans. And maybe you do it in a smart way. Maybe say, oh, I see you renovating. That's so great, because obviously they are improving the cost of their property, and in doing so, your neighborhood. And you could say to them, sure, how was the approval process? Was it difficult? Who did you use? You could use those kind of questions to fish out if they have approved plans. If you then realize that they're building without approved plans, you can then phone your local authority and report it. I know, I can hear you guys, you're going, oh, what are they even going to do about it? I will tell you that our councils are trying to improve, and at least if you have called them and then followed it up in writing, you have a record of this, because legally, if they're building illegally, the council can come in and stop them from building until they have the necessary approvals in place. They can even, force them to demolish the building. So in this instance, yes, I think your neighbor can take you to court. Is your neighbor going to win when they already have a legal building and already breaking the law? I'm not sure. I'm not a lawyer, but in this instance, it seems that the neighbor is outside of the law and is really just trying to bully you. So maybe for the sake of good neighborly relations, you can find a compromise. But I hope that answers your question and gives you some insight. Remember, just an architect, not a lawyer.